So Chiro Gold interview here again with the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Joe Strauss. Thank you once again for being with us. As always, we greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Now, this morning, Joe, what I've got here, I know you're a history fan. I'm a history fan. And I got a question that since our last conversation, I've been reading a history book, and it relates very well to chiropractic, I think, and it made me think about this. The historical part of it was, in the book I'm reading, they were talking about how some people today, and it's been going on for a long time, feel that documents like the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, that they really aren't relevant in today's world because our country has changed so much and progressed to a point now where those documents are no longer relevant. And in the book, they referenced a speech that was given by Calvin Coolidge. And he was talking basically in response to these people who believe that those are no longer relevant documents. And he made some great points. And he stated how that when you look at the statements made in the Declaration of Independence, for example, things like all men are created equal, that is a final statement, or that we are all endowed with inalienable rights, that is also a final statement, and that the government receives its power from the consent of the people, that's another final statement. And he means that they're final because if you try to change them or question their truth, the only way you can go is backwards to a time when men were not equal, when people don't have rights, or that people don't give power to the government. And I thought that was pretty profound. And so as I read that, a day or two later, I'm listening to a speech that Reggie Gold was giving, a talk that Reggie Gold was giving. And in there, he was talking about how chiropractic, too, has, of course, progressed greatly in its philosophy and its approach since 1895, that we moved from a profession whose goal was to cure deafness all the way to the objective straight model. He mentioned you in the talk, that this now objective straight model we have has been developed. And his point was that he, along with you and others, have stood on the shoulders of DJ and have brought it to where it is today. And he then said that it's up to the next generation of chiropractors, maybe chiropractors like myself, who now need to stand on your shoulders, on his shoulders, and move the philosophy to the next level. And my question is, because I heard that and I thought, well, I don't know if that's possible. And maybe I'm not creative enough to see it, but I think that the objective straight model that we have, that you have helped create, is a final statement, in that when you look at the objective straight model, the philosophy that the whole purpose of chiropractic is to make adjustments to allow each person's their body's innate intelligence to better express itself, and that's something that everybody can benefit from. I'm not sure if we can improve upon that. So I'd just like to see if you think that the objective straight model that we do have is a final statement, or is there a next level? And if so, what do you think it might be?
Wow. I'm kind of thinking about another talk that Reggie gave when he talked about the idea of walking into a woods. And have you ever heard that one?
I have, yeah.
And he said you can only walk so far into the woods, and then you begin to walk out of the woods, because
Right.
you can only walk so far into it. And I think that's pretty much a good analogy, or a good idea. And I think that what we're trying to do in objective straight chiropractic is not so much walk further into the woods, which a lot of people have done, and they've ended up getting out, or end up mixing other things or synchronizing other things with chiropractic, but
Right.
they've lost their way in the woods, so to speak, and they're walking out of the woods and getting into other things in chiropractic. I'm reminded of a talk that I heard recently, where a fellow was talking about being a farmer and planting doing plowing, and he said that when he plowed, if he got his eye off of the plowing,
Right.
he would get his furrow would not be straight. He would
Yeah.
go to the side somehow if he looked anywhere else. So he said he had to, when he was plowing. He was an older gentleman. In fact, I think he's passed on by now. But he said that he had to at some point fix his eyes on a certain point in the distance, and aim for that particular point to make sure that he got a straight furrow,
Right.
and that he plowed straight. And he said if he took his eyes off of anything, one way or another, if he would look at some birds flying around, he would lose the straightness of his
Yeah.
uh, plowing. And I think that that's something that we had to do. And so I think what we've tried to do, and recognize that DD and BJ were just men like the rest of us. There's always a danger to get your eyes off of the point that you're going to, and mess up your furrow,
Yeah.
and mess up your plowing. And I think that that's something that we need to consider that we're doing. And I think that following with Reggie's analogy a little further, I think what we've done in chiropractic is we've stood on the shoulders of those people who've gone before us, like uh, DD, BJ, and of course people like Reggie, and have enabled us to see a little clearer what chiropractic is,
Right.
rather than get off of
Right.
and try to keep wandering in the woods, and getting further off the mark, and making chiropractic something that it's not. And of course, the real danger always is to make chiropractic into the most common thing, or the
Mm.
birds that would be uh, always flying about us, and they would take our eyes off
Right.
of the fixed point that we should have. That fixed point, as far as chiropractic is concerned, I think was given to us by BJ, and probably to a lesser degree DD. And that when DD said, I take my chiropractic straight, I don't mix it. And BJ said that chiropractic is what we uh, do, and by giving us the 33 principles. So I think our fixed point is the 33 principles in chiropractic, and somehow we've gotten past that and
Mm.
said, well, chiropractic is to getting sick people well. And I think that's
Right.
kind of a bird that's flying around us, that is trying to influence
Yeah.
us from the practice of medicine. I mean,
Right.
that's the most common thing that we have, or the most noted uh, field that
Hmm.
causes us to be distracted from our fixed point. And our fixed point is the objective of chiropractic is the correction of vertebral subluxations to enable the innate intelligence of the body to more fully express itself,
Right.
and through the material parts of the human body. That's our fixed point, our objective. So we have a difference between our objective and our philosophy. There's a lot of people who um, try to talk about the philosophy, but if they get off of the objective, and that's
Sure.
and that's why we've titled the term objective
Yeah.
straight chiropractic. The two go together. The straight chiropractic, of course, is our philosophy. The objective is our goal, and I think we need to maintain that objective as
Hmm.
far as what we do.
And I think with that, there you talk about the philosophy. Sometimes people think new is always better. They think that, and that if something is old, well, it can't be good anymore because we've made these improvements. And I think that's where we get caught up in things like with chiropractic philosophy. But when it comes to ideas, because we can improve upon technology like cars have certainly improved. That technology has gotten better. But in the realm of ideas, there old or new isn't always better, because if it's a truth, it's a truth. If it's a truth back in 1895, it's still a truth today. And that's where I think people want to get into changing and maybe progressing chiropractic. And they confuse the fact that there are truths in the objective straight model that if you try to change them, now it becomes an untruth. And so that truth that the body, by allowing the body's innate intelligence to better express itself, is something that everyone can benefit from. That's a truth that can't be changed. And so that's where I think that what, again, Reggie, yourself, and others have helped develop is really a final statement, because those, you've worked it from the cure for all disease, for example, which is not a truth, and then it kept on going and refined into the point now where we have a truth. And so that's where I was thinking there's really nowhere else to go, because we've gotten to that point where we've developed a profession, an objective based on a truth. And whether it was developed in the 70s or in the 1770s, it would still be applicable today, because that's a truth.
Absolutely. And I think that what we need to do is to look at those principles that we have and say, what is a fixed point that we need to look at. And I think BJ gave us those with the 33 principles, and which Stevenson had just refined them and placed them in his 1927 textbook, and that's what we have. Those were principles that always existed. They existed before chiropractic was found or discovered or rediscovered in 1895. People knew them from the beginning of time, that if they cut their finger, those 33 principles would go into effect and enable the body to heal itself. And the body had been healing itself long before chiropractic was invented. And no matter how people will distort chiropractic in the future and perhaps progress to something else, and it might not be progression at all, and it won't be chiropractic at all. But the principle will still be in existence, that the body does heal itself. That's the principle that we've had since the first little kid skinned his knee, and that knee healed up. That principle existed. So I think it is important that we understand what those fixed principles are and understand where we've deviated. If the farmer, to follow that analogy, can look at the furrow that he has just plowed and say, "Whoa, well, this furrow is crooked. I've gotten off the mark," and understand and realize that he has not maintained that fixed point from the beginning. And I think that's where we have in chiropractic. So what we've done in chiropractic is to progress in that we've developed new and better ways to meet our objective, as long as we have kept that objective the same. And I can recall when the FSCO was first faced with this idea of chiropractic being the correction of vertebral subluxations to enable the innate wisdom of the body to express itself more fully by removing interference, that there was a big argument, because a lot of people went back to BJ's original idea of by hand only, and there was a big to do within the profession as to the use of certain tools, and some chiropractors said, no, we can't do anything but 10 fingers putting our hands on people. And others said, well, no, if we're going to define chiropractic by its objective, then we need to decide what that objective is. And if that objective can be in any way better met something other than putting 10 fingers or putting 2 hands on people. If it was an instrument could do it, and that was at that time, an instrument had been created by individual and to correct vertebral subluxations. And so
Right.
that argument came up, and some people actually left the organization because they said, no, we have to use our hands. We can't use instruments. And I, of course, uh, used my hands and never used an instrument. But I still said, well, wait a minute. If we're going to define chiropractic by its objective, we have to just
Right.
use that objective. And if you believe you can correct the subluxation better by using a handheld instrument, something that's not by your hands, or then that's fine.
Right.
And
Because it doesn't change the objective. It's still the same objective. It's just
right,
different way of accomplishing the same objective.
right,
Yeah.
right. And if to take back to the analogy in the plowing, if you realize that you're getting off the mark and you need to have a straight furrow, then you need to just to fix another point, but
Right.
still have a fixed point.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of chiropractors have developed some other points, and so their plowing goes back and forth like like
Well, I was talking to you earlier about doing the Ironman, and the first time I did an Ironman, my swimming technique was very poor, and I wasn't able to sight properly. And the swim in an Ironman is 2.4 miles. And as I'm swimming, they have all these people out around who are helping to make sure you're safe. All these people out there on paddle boards and things and boats. And anyway, I'm swimming and I hear a guy yelling off to my left, and I look over and he's yelling to me. He's going, right, right, because I was way off course. And after like the third time of him telling me this, I stopped and I treaded water and I told him, no, I'm just trying to get my money's worth. I want to get more of the course in. And he laughed and I kept going. He followed me the whole way. And in that Ironman, I bet I swam probably 2.6 miles because I was so far off course all the time. So I was not able to stay true on my course. And
yeah, you didn't.
I couldn't keep a fixed
Somehow
point.
you don't leave a furrow in the water, do you?
No, no.
like you would in a field that you were plowing.
Yeah, exactly. And so that makes me think also how fortunate we are to be part of a profession that is built upon truth. The 33 principles are truth, and we have this philosophy, the objective straight chiropractic model that's built on truth. And you think about that, and so much of what we see in the healthcare world, it really isn't built on truth. And so we're so lucky, and that's why I want more chiropractors to maybe join us on this journey of becoming objective straight chiropractor, because it's so rewarding and it's so freeing, because you're just able to go to the office every single day and speak truth to people, and you don't have to try to remember what you said before, because you're always just speaking truth. And when I first heard Reggie speak, when I was in my first trimester in chiropractic school, I was so blown away at how he was able to handle questions, and it was all because he was speaking from truth. He had this foundation of philosophical truth, and we have that in chiropractic. And I think that's something that I wish more chiropractors could see the beauty of.
Yeah, and I think BJ summed it up when he talked about slipping and checking. That we need to check our slipping from time to time, and have other people can help us do that. And perhaps I'm sure that this is one of the functions of this video thing that you've produced. It will help chiropractors to check their slipping and say, well, wait a minute. And I think we always had to do that. And
Oh, yeah.
in fact, I had to do that in practice, because you can always get off the mark. And,
Oh, I just gave a report Monday, and I completely got off the mark. And after I did it, I said a few things that I think might have led him to believe that what I was doing was going to offer a cure for his problem. And I didn't intend that, but my wording was off. And it was like, after I got done, I was like, that was not what I wanted to say. And so I slipped.
Right. And I think that, you know, sometimes you have first slip in your mind, you know, and like when when an individual, because people, uh, practice members or patients, whatever you want to call them, can tend to drag you off of your mark. They can get you off the mark pretty quick, and they can cause you to slip unless you
Right.
constantly bring them back to your point of references, that we correct vertebral subluxations to allow the innate intelligence of the body to more fully express itself, or to now
Yeah.
allow the forces of the innate intelligence of the body to more fully express itself. You know, that's what healing is all about. That's what health is all about, is the body healing itself. And I think that it's very easy to be dragged off
Exactly.
constantly, and we have to constantly strive to prevent uh, slipping, or going back and forth across a field that makes it
Yeah.
look like we've zigzagged, rather than, or that
Yeah.
with your example of swimming, you know, like I say, you don't have a path to see where you've gone, and to
Right.
check your slipping. And so that's why you need that fellow on the paddleboard alongside you, saying, you know, get to the right, get to the right.
Yeah. Exactly. You
he
know,
had a he had a
this,
fixed he had a fixed point.
yes,
And
he did. He had a better view.
right.
Well, this Monday, what happened was this, and a guy came in and I did my normal report and explained to him what we offer. And then he said he just would like to come in on a visit by visit basis. And I used to be of the mindset where I would tell people in a polite way that we don't do that. And basically you need to go somewhere else if you want that kind of care. But I actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth or accuse you of something that that you don't do. But I remember hearing, maybe in an audio or reading a book, one or the other, where you at one point made the decision that you're going to start accepting people that way as well. Meaning, if they want to come in on a sporadic basis, you're going to welcome them in the office. And so I thought, I need to do that too. I'd rather have people come into my office and getting care so I can have the chance to at least educate them towards what chiropractic really is, versus them leaving and going down the road and then getting the typical medical chiropractic approach. So anyway, I said, fine, you can do that. But I said, but one thing, I said, if you're not going to follow the plan that I've laid out for you here and follow these recommendations, that you can't complain to me about your back pain hurting. So if you're not going to do what I'm going to lay out for you, then you can't complain to me about your pain hurting. So that's what I told the guy. Then I left after, and he came back, got adjusted, everything was fine. He was happy, and he's coming back later this week. But after I said that, I thought, well, that makes it sound like if he follows my plan, his back pain will go away. So that's where I felt like I slipped a little bit, and it was because he wanted to go a different route. He wanted to choose a more symptomatic approach to chiropractic, and I allowed him to do that because I, again, want to take care of the guy, and I want to have the chance to educate him about what chiropractic really is. But because of that situation, I made it sound like I said, if he follows my care plan, our recommended schedule of care there, that it'll make his back pain go away. And that's not what I wanted it to sound like, but it might have come across that way to him. So that was my slip.
Yeah, I think that if he understood that your care plan was getting your spine checked on a regular basis for the rest of your life, then he would understand that's what your
Right.
objective is. But I can see where he would misconstrue that, and I think that that's all chiropractors run into that problem, and most chiropractors, in fact, quite often they tend to begin to practice chiropractic that way, or find the need to constantly renew their practice by taking on more people. I had a friend who went into practice just about the same time I did, and he had a very strong position that he took with people, said, look, if you don't come on a regular basis when I want you to, you know, don't bother
Right.
coming back.
Yeah.
And he would, you know, throw them out of the office. Well, you know, he had to go through a lot of people that way,
Right.
until he got those people. But those that stayed with him, they stayed with him for many years.
Right. Yeah.
And I usually took the position that, well, I probably haven't explained chiropractic as well as I could, and I have still developing my ability to do that. At least I was until the day I left, retired from practice, and then doing that, I realized that I need to constantly improve upon my explanation, my
Right.
analogies, my examples, and the way I explain chiropractic to people, and to get them to understand that our our care plan is getting your spine checked regularly for the rest of your life, whatever I decide, you know. And in fact, that's one of the questions that young chiropractors ask me. Well, you know, what is your care plan? And I usually say, well, what you need to explain to the practice member is you should have your spine checked, um, probably every hour on the hour for the rest of your life, and that's not feasible, because I even took a day off during the week, and so it wasn't even feasible for my practice. Uh, okay, so you can't do that. We've got to find what is something that's reasonable for your practice, and will accomplish what we want to
Right.
be accomplished. That is to spend as much of your time as possible being free of verbal subluxations. And it obviously, uh, it's not getting adjusted every hour on the hour, getting
Right.
checked every hour on the hour, but it's also you also need to have it more than whenever your back pain hurts or whenever
Right.
your
Well,
problems.
I think one thing that is so important that that I actually again got from one of your books, just talking about how, when you think about all of the things that cause subluxation, that it is impossible for a person really to, and I guess I don't want to get into a technical thing in terms of technique wars and battles, because I know some techniques think they should be able to hold an adjustment for a month. But in my opinion, I don't think that's realistic, because there's just, when you think about the way we sit, the way we sleep, driving in cars, on computers, not to mention the obvious things like the falls that people have and whatever it might be, but there's just so many things every single day that are going on that can cause a person to get subluxated, that they should be adjusted, at least checked, like you said, if not every hour. What I tell people is, I say, you can very easily come in and probably need to get adjusted 3, 4 times a week, but that really isn't practical, so you can't get in here that often. So once a week is certainly reasonable, and that's more realistic for you. Come in, get weekly and a weekly adjustment for the rest of your life. And people get that because they understand that, yeah, I get adjusted, but then I go out and I'm back into my routine, my life. All of these things that can cause subluxation are there. So it makes sense, because it's a truth, that I should at least come in once a week to get adjusted. And that's a concept I think people can really relate to.
Yeah, I had a, a, a chiropractic friend who and kind of along this line, who ran because he liked running and he felt it was good exercise
Right.
for him, and he ran on a regular basis. And this kind of brings me back to your example of the Ironman thing that you did. And he said that after a while, one time he was running and ran, and he felt good, and he had, I guess, the endorphins, if that's what they are, uh, were kicking in, and he was running it. And when he got finished running, he took his sneakers off, and his sock was full of blood. And
Oh,
so he realized that he had gone past the point of exercising and had stressed himself out, even though part of it was he wanted to finish the race, and the
Yeah.
other part of it was that he still was feeling
Oh,
okay,
fine.
but he was obviously doing harm to his body.
Yeah.
So there's a point where you can do harm, and maybe if an Ironman race is good, it's obviously up to a certain point it's good exercise, but we have this desire to go past what we are capable of doing, what's good for our body, and it then no longer becomes stress. It
Yeah.
becomes stress rather than or
Right.
distress, I guess, as Hans Seeley kind of made that differentiation in his book,
Mhm.
and it's doing harm to your body. It's
Right.
no longer what your body needs as far as exercise is concerned. So, and our body will tell us, uh, what that point is. Um, for
What?
example, with my swimming yesterday, um, about 3 strokes was enough for my body, and but that really wasn't a lot of exercise. But tomorrow, if it's a nice day, I'll do 4 strokes
There you go.
and work up to
Improve
what
every
what
day.
what is exercise is. But
Yes.
that's the thing. But people need to understand that our body will tell us what we need to do and what we should do and when we're going too far. And sometimes we don't listen to it, we ignore it, or as we said, a an example that we want uh, for ourselves based upon our educated mind rather than what the innate intelligence of our body is trying to
Right.
tell us. And I sometimes use the example with a person. Well, if you're exercising and you need to do whatever your body tells you to do, and no further and no more. And of course, in this society, we decide, well, I want to do more, and
Yeah.
I want to try to do more. And sometimes that's where we can
Right.
distress ourselves and cause actual subluxations.
Yeah.
And that's what people need
Right.
to understand, where you need to quit. And I don't think it's after 3 strokes in the swimming pool, but I'll try to work up, and my wife will be sitting on the sideline saying, "Oh, why don't you swim a little bit more?"
I love it. On that one too, it's so important that, you know, we're talking about doing these things and how getting back to the point where people need to be, we need to communicate to people the importance of coming on a routine, regular basis. And a lot of people think that if they are exercising and doing other healthy things, that that will, and there might be to some degree that it might allow their body to maintain an adjustment better or whatever. But many times, those are the things that actually cause the adjustment. So if a person's going to be out there exercising and doing these things, even to a mild or a moderate level, they need to get maybe even more adjustments because the pounding of the exercise or the repetitive motion of the exercise are all things that can cause a subluxation. So I think that's an important communication point we have to make with people, that that doesn't mean you should get adjusted less. You probably need to get adjusted more if you want to do those things, so that they have only a positive benefit and not a negative benefit or negative effect on your body.
Absolutely. I think that well, if you take exercise, uh, if a person exercises to a certain degree, they are getting what their body needs. I think DJ defined exercise, or Stevenson did in his book. Exercise is the normal, natural amount of activity that your body needs to enable it to adapt on a regular basis. And I think that we tend to go over or under. Two
Yeah.
strokes in the swimming pool is probably definitely under, and that was all I felt I could do. I wanted to do yesterday, but
So
that
in
probably
2.4 miles is definitely over, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that you can do that, and of course you realized after you were done that 2.4, the 26 mile run. No,
Yeah, well, 2.4 mile swim, then 112 on the bike, and then a marathon, 26.2.
I
Yeah.
think after you were done, I think you realized that that was subluxation creating
Yeah,
activity.
definitely.
Now, it may have been fun, and it may have been something that you can look back on and say, I was able to do it, I did it, and I didn't die.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the victory.
Yeah, but you also realize that it was a subluxation creating activity,
Yeah.
and I think that we do that all the time. We do things that we shouldn't do, and even normal, natural things that we think are things that we want to do, and we get pleasure in doing them. And I had another chiropractor who who we were at a convention. It was an old uh, ICA convention, and we went out to get something to eat, and he liked to he was a smoker, and and he said that he thought that that he was allowing his body to learn how to adapt to smoke. He said, when our air is polluted, he said, I will be able to adapt to it because I'm challenging my body at this particular point.
Wow.
And of course, we kind of said, well, that philosophically, that's really not correct.
No.
And we kind of chided him on that thing. He was trying to be philosophically correct, but he
Yeah.
was distorting the philosophy, which
A
is
little bit.
something
Yeah.
that we all tend to do this time. And I think we made him get out of the car at that particular point. And we said, well, I'm sure the exercise of walking the rest of the way to the restaurant will be as good for you as the smoking.
Yeah.
And maybe you ought to get out and walk for a while.
That's funny.
Uh, but he decided, well, maybe he would put out his cigarette.
You mentioned earlier you gave the definition that BJ gave for exercise. Normal. What was it again?
The normal, natural amount of activity your body
Okay.
needs to
And
do.
it just made me think of the distinction between normal and average, and how important that is to our philosophy. Because you look at if you go buy a book on exercise, what they have there is maybe what would be the average workout for someone to do if they want to achieve whatever. But again, you and I aren't the average. So what is normal for you and what's normal for me are two different things. And that gets into the whole idea where when we look at what science does is they create averages, but our body, it, the innate intelligence of our body knows what's normal for our body. And so getting to that point there, to hear maybe your thoughts on that, and how important it is for us to communicate even to our practice members the differences between average and normal.
Yeah, I don't know that we can really understand what normal is unless we understand what is good for our body, and that
Mm-hmm.
of course is determined by the innate intelligence of our body. So I'm not sure that we can ever just determine that normal, and we always tend to fall back on average, which is different, like you say, for you and me, and it's probably different for every single person. And I don't know whether I'll find my normal for swimming. uh, I'm sure it will be more than two strokes.
Yes.
uh, but it will be that which the innate intelligence of my body wants me to do. And if I try to go over that or under that, then I'm really
Right.
reaching someone else's average, and I'm
My
not sure
thought,
we
my
want
thought
that.
on this was, a lot of chiropractors get into other things such as nutrition or things like that, and they're really dealing with the average. Because again, like you just said, they don't know what's normal, what the normal amount of vitamin C really is for that person. Yes, we have some averages we go off of, and we have a general idea maybe, but we really don't know. And so if we want to deal in truth again, I think that's where we get into trouble if we start doing other things that rely where we don't know what is actually normal for a person's body. That makes sense?
Right. because only the innate intelligence of their body knows what's normal for them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's different with every single person. And in the days when sailors would go out on ships,
Right.
they didn't get enough vitamin C,
Yeah.
and and they ended up with scurvy, and
Mm-hmm.
that was when they finally decided, well, maybe we need more vitamin C, and that's how they got the term limeys, because they had to eat limes
Right.
on their on seas, and we understood. I don't know that we want to wait till we end up with scurvy. Decided, well, we maybe should uptake up our intake of vitamin C. We do know that we need a certain amount of vitamin C, and uh, my wife put a banana on my cereal this morning
There you go.
so that I would get enough whatever the banana, whatever
Potassium.
the potassium. I mean, that's something we old people need. My mother used to say, her favorite saying was, well, if I'd say, can I pick up something from the store for you, Mom? And she'd say, yeah, just don't buy any green bananas. So that was her favorite saying.
Yeah,
Don't buy any green bananas.
I love it. I love
She lasted to 91.
There's some good. We need to take her advice in on those things. She knows what she's
Yeah, I'm
talking
not
about.
sure. I don't know. Sure, it was the green bananas, or
Yeah,
maybe it was a combination of the potassium and the fact that and her genetic makeup
yeah,
was the other factor too.
probably helped.
Yeah. So
Fantastic. Well, you know what? I think that's what we have for today. I think that's some good things there for people to sink their teeth into and really think about. And I really think that these are the kind of things I know I do. I have your audios, your books, Reggie stuff. I just listen to those things over and over and over again because every time you come back to it, you've got a different mindset. So you hear things differently. So I think this is one of the audios I hope people can listen to many times because there's a lot in there. So as always, Joe, just greatly appreciate you and what you've done for the profession and what you're doing now with this. I appreciate that and taking the time every couple of weeks. And so look forward to doing it again in a few weeks.
sure, that's great, and I thank you for this contribution that you're making to the profession. Obviously, you're a lot younger than me, but you're picking up the gauntlet that needs to be picked up, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity that you give me to participate in this work that you're doing,
Well, until
and this.
you tell me no, I'm going to keep calling you every 2 weeks. So just
Okay, okay.
thanks, Joe.
Well, if I don't hear from me, it's because the Lord took me home.
Well, then we'll have conversations later at a different time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
You too.
All righty. Thank you.
All right.